Charlie, no.
Hi. Today I'm going to talk about getting under the gun control debate.
Mm-hmm.
This is Beth Green, otherwise known as Granny Rocks. And the dogs outside just started barking, so our dogs have to start barking, right? Isn't that the whole issue with armaments, right? And this guy over here is...
Hello there, I'm James Maynard, otherwise known as the Songbird. This doggy also sings along, by the way. And happy to be here, and happy you could join us. So, I'm handling the chat tonight, so please chat with us. I'll pass it on to Beth, and she can talk directly to you. And meanwhile, I'm going to deal with the doggy. I'll be right back.
Getting under the gun control debate. Now, we just saw a headline on the way to the show that the House, the U.S. House, passed a sweeping gun control bill. I wonder what's going to happen to it. I don't know what's in it, so if you thought you were going to hear something from me about what's in it, you won't.
Charlie,
But I want to talk about
no
some
barking.
really fundamental things that have to do with gun
no
control.
barking.
A lot of people are waiting for Congress to act, and evidently there is some movement in that direction. But it's a very complicated issue, and I would like to stop doing all the polarization around it and the simplistic conversations and see what we have to talk about tonight.
Yes. And Tracy says hello.
Hello, Tracy. Glad to see you.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. The first thing I want to say is that it is obvious that when you're debating gun control, there are so many layers of factors, right? For instance, there's economic factors, a lot of them. There's a whole industry devoted to guns. A whole industry and the lobby and all of that stuff. There's a lot of money in guns and in armaments as well, and we have more.
Oh, yes. Amy says, hi, Beth and James. Hello back to you,
Hi,
Amy.
Amy.
And Blanquita says, hello, Beth and James. Hola. Good
Hola.
to see you. And Vasily, who's Ukrainian, has said, good morning, dear friends. Well, good
I
morning
guess
to
it's
you.
morning there. And look at that.
And Karen says hello from me too.
Ooh,
She sends
hello,
love and a bear,
Karen.
and a teddy bear. And Elizabeth says hello, and she waves and sends love also. And Todd says hola.
Oh,
Hola,
wonderful.
Todd.
Thank you for joining us tonight on this really important topic. So, as I mentioned, there's a lot of economic interests involved in guns, and not just in guns, in armaments in general.
Yeah.
I mean, the arms race is really fueling a lot of people's economies. And look at that. We have
Catalina
more.
says hi.
And Blanquita says hola.
Hola.
Well,
Yeah.
hi and hola, back. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. So, but that's pretty obvious, the economic. But there are political issues that are involved, like, if I want gun control and my constituents don't want gun control, am I going to lose my position and my power and all of that stuff, right? And very briefly, because I'm just touching on these things, there are cultural issues. Now, when I say there are cultural issues, I mean, haven't we all grown up on stick 'em up,
Oh, that. Yeah.
Or also the sheriff comes out. The lawman comes out with his guns.
The good guys.
The good guys and their guns, and everybody's got their guns, and so for some people, the cultural issues are closer to home. You may come from a family that's very much into hunting or into guns, or so it's hard to think straight and separate ourselves out from all of that stuff. But that isn't what I want to talk about tonight, even though those are all really important factors. What I really want to talk about when I talk about getting under the gun control debate is fear. By the way, speaking of cultural issues and social issues, when the Ukraine was invaded by the Russians, everybody said, "Arm the Ukrainians! Arm the Ukrainians!" Right? It's not,
Yeah.
people didn't say, "Oh, let me see, how are we going to disarm the Russians?" It was more like, "Arm the Ukrainians!" It's just the visceral reaction, arm, arm, arm. And I mean, if you look back, how many of us in history have used weapons? Stones, throw stones. How are you going to get the saber-toothed tiger, right? How are you going to protect yourself? So we have this history of arming ourselves in order to have power. So this is a long history. I mean, I don't know, we probably had stones in caves, didn't we? That's a long time. So it's kind of become almost instinctive that when there's a problem, you take out your arms. Your guns, your knives, your stones, whatever it is that you've got, right? And all of that is associated with self-defense, fear, and aggressiveness.
Mhm.
I want your land. I don't go in there with a song. When I want your land, I go in there with swords and mail, what did they call that? Mail armor and all of that stuff.
Well, that's how the Europeans conquered the Indians on this side of the ocean.
That's right.
They had the explosive firearms, and the native peoples did not.
That's right. So it's a long history, right? And it's the way that we have fought for power. So when you say we should disarm, we should get rid of guns, we should do this, what are we fighting against? Thousands of years of history where we're always looking for bigger, 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 better, more powerful armaments against our enemies, even if we have created those enemies, right? So don't forget that. This is part of our history as a human race. Now, I remember the old days with the nuclear disarmament movement, or just the whole disarmament movement. And some people said we should all disarm. And other people said what we need is the nuclear deterrent. We make it so bad that we can't use it. So, oh my God, if we do this, we're going to kill ourselves. And so that was another way of dealing with disarmament. right? Make the consequences horrible. Now, there is a silly conversation where people talk about laws and the Second Amendment. I know some people think that's really important, but I'm not buying it because the Second Amendment has nothing to do with people walking around with, handguns.
Or assault rifles.
Or assault rifles. I mean, that's kind of silly. But I think that underneath it is all of this other stuff that I'm talking about. And the basic issue is we don't trust one another. And when you look at the nation today, who trusts anybody? You know, I'm afraid of the guy next door who's a nut. I'm afraid of the homeless guy who's wandering around. I'm afraid of the poor guy who might be trying to steal from me. I'm afraid of the people in the other political party that I don't agree with. They don't agree with me. I feel overwhelmed. I feel afraid. How am I going to give up my arms? You see, and I want to get to one of the most important factors in this. Emotional disarmament. Now, how many of us have been in arguments and we raise our voices or we pull out arguments that we think are going to demolish our opponent? We're not even thinking about disarmament. We don't come in saying, I need to stop trying to overpower you. Looks like we've got another one.
Oh, we've got a new one here now. Mohammed says, hello, Jim. Hi. And hi, Beth.
Hello there, Mohammed. You know, people who have been oppressed have a tendency to look for ways to get back their power. And what do they use? Now, it is true that when, Gandhi was around, he did nonviolence, right? And yet, ultimately, people reverted back to violence, didn't they?
Oh, yeah. And India is now a nuclear power.
Right. They're not saying, oh, yes, we are going to appeal to you. How many of us are ready to disarm? How many of us are ready to disarm on the inside? How many of us say, I'm going to give up my advantage. Yes, I'm a little more educated, I'm a little smarter, I have a louder voice, or I have a bigger presence. It's like, oh, I'm not going to use any of that. Oh, no, I'm not going to use that. I'm going to come into this with a loving attitude. And when I look at the society today, a lot of people who are talking about gun control are not talking about giving up our ammunition, whether our ammunition is shaming other people, blaming other people, demonizing other people. Are you ready to give that up? Judging other people. Now, some of the arguments are kind of silly. People are saying it isn't guns that kill, it's people. And then other people saying, well, it's guns and arms that kill. It's not people, it's guns. Well, it's such a stupid argument. It's people with guns. You know what I mean? Like, what are we arguing about? But if you did remove a lot of the arms, you wouldn't have 2-year-olds shooting their parents
Right.
by accident. I mean, if you didn't have guns in the house, obviously you would have less violence if so if you didn't have AK-47s or assault weapons, less damage would be done by the crazy people who are going out there using it. But unless we are ready to let go of our armaments, and our armaments can be on every level, social, psychological, gathering the vote, gathering people together to defeat the others. Oh my God. You know, aren't we all really trying to dominate and get each other? It looks like
We
above,
have another
above,
message here.
above, James,
I see that.
above.
Jose says, God bless Mama and Papa.
Thank
And
you.
Thank you, Jose. God bless you. And Basili says, thank you, Beth and James, for the warm rays of your heart. Oh,
Thank you.
thank you,
Above,
Vasily.
James.
And then up here,
Yeah.
Judith says, I'm afraid that we have lost total regard for human life. Human beings don't care about their fellow man anymore. I have a gun and I want to keep it, but I do not need an AR-15, which is an assault weapon.
Yeah.
And should someone tick me off, I would never go out and shoot them just because I have access to a gun. Pitiful situation we are in.
I agree with you,
Yeah.
Judith. I mean, that is so the case. The problem is people are so distraught, so crazy, so fearful that they're not willing to say, if I have this armament, I will not use it. If I have the advantage, the political advantage, I will not use it. If I have the social advantage, I will not use it. If I have the economic advantage, I will not use it. These are all forms of weapons that we use against each other because we have made others not human.
Judith says, you're right, Beth. And she sends flowers.
Thank you, honey. Now, what do we do? If you agree with me, then we have to start by looking at ourselves. I see all kinds of really good people who don't want to see, the pain that's being inflicted by all these armaments. And I see them, but they are using other forms of force against other people. And people who feel like they are being imposed on, that they are being dominated, are going to look for their weapon that they have. Plus, obviously, they're all looking for something. How do I protect myself from you? From black people, from white people, from all those people that I don't trust.
And Judith says, look in the mirror.
That's right. Look in the mirror. That is really the point of this show. I don't see that. I see a lot of people saying, let's do this, let's do that, let's have sensible gun control, let's have. But if we are still weaponizing ourselves to dominate others, how do we expect that this will ever change?
And Blanquita sends a big heart of love. Thank you, Blanquita.
And look at the price we are paying. You know, I see these young people.
Mohammed says, the weapon of dialogue is more powerful than the weapon of bullets or something like that.
It can be, but the fact of the matter is that some of us have more power in the dialogue than others. We could be better educated. We could have social institutions behind us that can dominate other people and leave them feeling frustrated. So I agree with you. It's not that I don't agree with you. I'm just saying, let's look a little deeper, 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 deeper. Who controls the dialogue? And who's got the power in the dialogue? As long as this society is all about power and domination, which it is, there are going to be people who are going to look for weapons of different kinds. Okay, so you can say, well, organize. Sometimes people do organize, but what they're trying to do is create weaponizing organization. It's like, oh yeah, let's all organize so that we can defeat the other guy.
Mm-hmm.
Are you, and I'm going to play the piano for a little bit, are you really ready to disarm? Are you ready to give up what gives you an advantage in order to listen and work together? Not so fast, Buster. Using our positions of influence, getting together with our friends who agree with us, not looking very deeply into it, but just going, tisk, 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 aren't they screwed? What's wrong with them? What's wrong with those people? Am I willing to give up? Wouldn't it be cool? It looks like.
And Amy says, I'm in.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Amy. I can just raise my voice or give Jane the look. That's what I learned from my mother. She weaponized the look to scare me.
Where does law enforcement enter in here? I mean, to what extent do you trust law enforcement so that you don't need to have a gun of your own?
Who trusts law enforcement? Law enforcement is made of people. I mean, we've seen one example after another of the uneven use of law enforcement against gays, against minorities. Looks like we have another one.
And Amy says, I'm not willing to stop trying to dominate my housemate when I disagree, when she disagrees with me.
Well, thank you for being honest.
Yeah, that's honest.
You know, it's like, well, I am the landlord and I have the ultimate say. Am I going to disarm? I don't think so. I don't want to give up my power, do I? So you think about that for a minute. What are your weapons? And think about it. Your weapon could be something as simple as withdrawal. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I know how to get her. All I have to do is withdraw, make her feel unwanted, and all right. So, all right.
Muhammad says, likewise, love is stronger than anything else because he arranges a biography full of beautiful and difficult events.
Well, you know, I wish I
Yes.
could say right now that love is stronger than anything else, and I hope that you're right. But I'm afraid that's not necessarily true because a lot of us, our love is for the people we agree with, the people who resemble us, the people who have the same culture, the same face, the same race, the same nation. You know, it's like, oh, I'm going to fight to the end for my country, even if my country actually has stolen your land.
Amy says, my weapon is using the fact that I can evict her to keep my power.
Exactly, Amy. So, everybody else, I'm going to keep playing, and I want you to think about your weapon, your personal weapon. Disapproval, withdrawal, arguments, guns, economic power, political power. And the fact that we make, I think, as Judy was talking about, that we make ourselves separate. We don't even recognize the humanity of the people we disagree with. So you know, if you look under all of this, you find that we're all sitting here scared of one another, and it gets even worse. The more violent our society, the worse it is. And you know, I want to say one more thing about the cultural heroes. We have these symbols and we show these young boys and girls, ooh, going out there with the sword of the wizard, and you know, we've got weapons. The children have weapons in their video games.
Oh, Todd says, my weapons are intimidation, withdrawal, and being critical.
Right on. Are you willing to disarm? But we want other people to disarm.
Ah.
And other people are scared. And we're all scared. Now, wouldn't you like it if I gave you a simple answer for this?
Yeah, we would like a very simple answer.
The simple answer is look within. Look into the mirror. Let us see ourselves. This moment of self-honesty is a potent weapon against weapons. We are allowing ourselves to ask questions that we don't normally ask.
Todd says, yes, I am willing, but I don't know if I would, depending on the situation.
Honesty. Honesty. And, you know, it's like the Ukraine. Okay, so I'm saying, yeah, let's arm the Ukraine. I feel the same way. Honestly, I have to be honest. I don't want the Ukraine to be taken over by Russia, especially if they're willing to do all the suffering.
And then Todd says, I would like to think I would try, but you're right. We have to look honestly.
We do. So I want to tell you that this is the Granny Rock Show, and we broadcast every Wednesday at 6:30 Pacific time, and I try to provoke thought.
Well, Muhammad says, please, can you look at the mirror?
Yes. Can we look in the mirror?
Yes.
Can we take a moment from this endless fighting with each other and putting each other down and trying to humiliate each other and trying to make other people who have different ideas look stupid instead of trying to understand what's underneath their behavior. Like I talked about economic, cultural, family, political considerations, but mostly fear. How are we really going to disarm when we have a society where there is so much fear of one another,
And lack of trust.
lack of trust, otherness? And so we have these movements of people who are gathering together because numbers can be weapons. And then we try to use the ballot. We say, oh, well, use the ballot box instead of, the guns. Well, I'll tell you, the ballot box can be a weapon.
Oh.
Can't it?
Oh, yeah.
So, every Thursday night, which is tomorrow, I play the piano. I talk less and play more. And
Yes.
every Wednesday night, we come back with Granny Rocks, and I talk about what's going on inside. At least I try to. And I'm trying to disarm myself, but I'm hoping that this show has helped us all to think more deeply
Mm.
about this debate. So we're not so busy judging one another, but we're understanding one another and we're seeing what's at stake, which is probably the survival of our planet. I mean, God, we use weapons against our planet every day. I have the power to do anything I want to other animals, to the environment, because I want control. When do we get to the point that we really understand that we need to work together and control is not the answer? Okay.
Yes. And Kay says, good night to both of you, and good night
It's
to
a
you.
perfect way to close tonight. Good night to you, Kay. Don't forget, you can write to me after the show and I will respond to you. I really appreciate the wonderful group we had tonight. And I hope that we continue to work together to try to understand things on a deeper level and to spread that light to others.
Yeah, share with others. Yeah.
Share this show. Like it, love it, follow our page, and also share this program. A lot of people need to think about this.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye for now.